But here we are over on Entombed Valley with this PVT. In the top left-hand corner, we have Bischu starting out here as the yellow Protoss. Bottom right-hand corner, we have the green Terran. Of course, Ryung. I want to apologize to some people at home real quick because my throat is like destroying me right now. So I do have like a hard candy inside to try to relax it. But
yeah,
I
don't
will
worry.
like
We'll nerf nature in the next patch.
I'll slur a little bit because of that. So I apologize.
It's okay, Andre. I got you. Daddy's got you, Andre.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I thank you. Over in the top left, we have from Team Dignitas. It's Mr. Jesper. It's Dignitas Bischu, the Protoss player who's 4-2, and he's not like 4-2 in necessarily the most convincing way. He only has a +2 map score, but he's winning, and he's beaten players like Chef, Hwangson, Thorzan, and Targa. He hasn't been able to beat MC, and his hardest competition is still ahead of him because after Ryung, he has to play Tasia. So he's got Protoss versus Terran the last 2 weeks, but still, it's incredibly difficult because Ryung may not be that great TVP, but against foreigners, he actually still has a winning percentage. Everyone kind of looks at Ryung's Korean TVP and be like, wow, this guy is not great. But Ryung still has a high winning percentage against foreigners.
And Frodan, that actually helps out for Bischu when he gets just to prepare for PVT. When you get to prepare 2 weeks straight for PVT, you actually start excelling in that matchup quite substantially. And it's nice. Ryung is considered probably the worst TVP specialist out of the two. And of course, Tasia being the better player. But I have to feel like still Ryung is going to be a very, very tough opponent for Bischu, as we saw in his games against Hwangson. But already Bischu is starting up with some shenanigans. You can see a probe in the bottom left-hand corner just sitting there. What are we going to see? A robotics facility or Twilight Council? Or even maybe a Stargate?
Yeah, I think Stargate and Protoss versus Terran. I think that'd be crazy.
Hey, dude. Don't you dare say that.
Hey, in Heart of the Swarm, actually, I think it's going to be pretty cool, especially with the new Oracle ability. Some people have been comboing the Time Warp Field with Storm, which is pretty neat. And granted, the Void Prism thing, the passive ability that drains 20 health per second, is kind of broken. But I feel like Stargate play could be kind of cool in Protoss versus Terran. I think the idea is you just don't have to go Robo, or is so restricting. Although a lot of Protosses feel really comfortable going Twilight anyways. Maybe just getting a Robo for observers, but prioritizing the Twilight upgrades with Forge. Although look at this from Bischu, 2 gases and 2 probes on each of them. And he's faking an expansion. Textbook Bischu.
And go in robotics facility.
Wow. This is the build he did against Thorzan, where he went for a proxy immortal bust, where he was able to break the ramp, even though there was 2 bunkers and a 3rd one going up.
Doesn't matter, man.
Doesn't matter because immortals are just super effective.
This is such a powerful build. And it's very deceiving. Ryung not scouting. You need continuation scout, or you need... Oh, wait. He's on 1 base. Okay, we're good, guys. Everybody calm down, please. Calm
this
down.
Is very interesting. We might have one of those awkward situations where both players' armies miss each other and they kind of pseudo-base trade, although it depends. You know, Bischu does also have the option to go for a quick Warp Prism as well and try to drop Force Field the Ram, that kind of stuff, basically what you do in PvZ. From here, how do you think this game's going to pan out, especially if Ryung chooses to go for Marine Hellion?
So it's funny because both these players think the other one is expanding. That's how it is. Ryung's like, oh, I'm going to get this guy.
Like, I'm so clever.
I'm so
smart. I am faking him out. He believes me.
That's why we have the initial observer. You can see the observer over here just chilling out because you can warp in from this bottom. But of course...
This is like the rock, paper, scissors when you're like, I am so clever. I'm going to pick rock 5 times in a row. And they pick rock 5 times in a row, too, because they think they're being smart also. It's really funny.
And then you just end up hitting each other with the rock. Like, ah!
Yeah, you just waste half the time. You might as well have just flipped the coin instead. Called heads or tails.
Yeah, man.
Well, we'll see how things pan out. Bischu's still hugging his ram. He knows the Marines are out into the middle of the field. And Marine pokes have become very popular in the Terran vs. Protoss metagame. 2 Immortals are going to be out into the field, though, by the time they get up the ramp. Bischu does have 2 Force Fields, but he has to protect against the medevac. The medevac is what really makes this kind of, I guess, push or pressure really strong and scary, Andre.
2 Immortals are just sitting there in the bottom left-hand corner. It looks like he's not going to do anything just yet. Observer is already out. That observer should be a little bit scary right now, because it's like, what are you doing with that robo? Is it going to be some sort of Colossus pressure off of one base? Or are you actually doing some sort of immortal bust? So right now, I think Ryung should just stay on one base.
Well, he's expanding, Andre. He knows there's no expansion from Bischu, so like you said, it's a very scary moment, and he's choosing to drop a stick. I think he wants it vision. He wants to know what's going on.
That's right. And he's looking for some sort of tech in the base of Bischu.
Oh, Bischu knows. He's got 3 Stalkers in his mineral line. We see the Banshee also making his way. The Observer isn't in position, but doesn't matter because the Banshee does not have Cloak. Hellions are getting dropped into the corner. Bischu does have 3 Stalkers prepared. He can wall off if he's able to react fast enough. And yeah, now he sees the Hellions. He's moving out to the middle of the map. Will Ryung be able to hold the bust up his ramp? It's kind of a tight squeeze, though, up the ramp, don't you think?
It will be tough. No matter what, it will be tough.
Oh, he's got 3 Immortals, though. Oh, my goodness. Doesn't even matter if he's got tanks. He's going to strike before Siege mode as well, Andre.
We're going to see it right now. Now, if he pulls SCVs, I think he will be able to buy a little bit of time, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, Frodan. This is really, really tough. Guardian Shield's going to be popped.
The Siege tank is about to get into Siege mode as well. The Raven, I guess, can kill off the Observer, and that reduces the vision of Protoss up the ramp, but now Ryung is supply blocked. Yeah. He does have his medevac for Hellions also in the top center of the map if he wants to counter drop a Bischu. Doesn't have anything there. He pulled all of his Stalkers. In fact, Ryung's not even utilizing the Banshee back at the natural. This entire time he could have been killing probes because Bischu has everything committed to an attack.
Even the Hellions are over there in the top middle, so he's doing so much nothing. So much nothing, Frodan.
I know a lot of people that do so much nothing, Andre, and I think Ryung is really missing a golden opportunity.
Oh, this is really scary.
I think a War Prism is in order. Actually, yeah, Bischu's been making a War Prism this entire time, and that'll be his key to victory. More tanks and Banshees coming out here from Ryung. I think time does favor Ryung, though, because the more tanks that build up, the Immortals become less and less effective, especially by the Immortals squeezing in really tightly, unless the War Prism can kind of canoodle their way in, if that's a word. I don't think that's a word, Andre.
It definitely is. And trust me, this Protoss army can definitely canoodle pretty well. We're going to see that right now. The Immortals are going to charge the way forward, absorbing a lot of the damage. The Zealots are going to come behind.
Oh, dropping directly onto the siege tanks.
Great canoodling. And he's not actually going all the way up. He didn't move command. He was attacking against the barracks.
But the War Prism is just like sitting there idle in front of the SCVs.
YOLO,
kind of,
bro.
He can force a warp in and attack his own SCVs. The Marines are still having a peace treaty with this War Prism. I think the Marines don't want to go too far, though, because that reduces the ability for them to move up the ramp, and Bischu lets the War Prism go. Meanwhile, this Banshee's still not doing much because Bischu caught it and warped and Stalkers back at home. That's why he wasn't warping in aggressively. Bischu going in for some kind of contain instead. Is Bischu just going to expand from here?
Bischu taking out the Banshee! No!
Bischu is going to expand.
Yeah.
Wow. That 12-minute expand. Bischu's playing like PvP, man. Going for like a proxy Robo 4-gate and then expanding really late and containing his opponent.
YOLO, bro.
Yeah, I feel like... but you know what? Ryung does have a pretty healthy tank count. 5 is a lot. And sure, you have 3 Immortals, but when you splash all of them directly, that's just 2 volleys, and then the Marines can chop it down, so...
And you know what? I wouldn't mind if he just doesn't go any upgrades at this point and just gets Ghost. Actually, Ghost Marine Tank is going to be so powerful in this situation when you're on low economy. Once Ghosts come out, you take out Guardian Shield, you take out...
Big volley.
You take out the Immortals quite substantially, and then your Marines are empowered that way. So I wouldn't mind that at all, but as it stands, I feel like Ryung has a massive advantage still. No matter what, how you look at it, Ryung is way, way far ahead.
I agree, and I think Ryung has been able to keep his worker count pretty high. Yeah, 30 to 21. This attack from Bischu, I think, was dependent on him thinking his opponent is fast expanding, not turning off one base. We were talking about how tight of a bottleneck it is to move up that ramp, and yeah, I think Ryung protected it excellently. Bischu trying to do what he can to poke, but he doesn't have any real form of tech. Other than this Twilight Council, I thought he was going to go for Fast Blink, but instead he's going to go for a Twilight, or Temple Archives. What do you think about this play, Andre?
It's forced. I think Colossus are really, really bad because the Ravens are out for so long. There could have been a Viking count being started. There could be medevacs. So you have to actually deal with the main problems, which is
The tank?
PDD and the Marines. PDD, Marines, and basically all spellcasting stuff, which like medevacs.
So the tanks aren't, you don't think the tanks are that big of a threat?
The tanks are, but they're empowered by the Marines. If the Marines aren't there, then they're worthless.
Okay.
So you can micro it well enough such that the Immortals are going to take most of the shots. They can kill tanks so fast, especially with like warp prisms.
Yes.
But in this case, I feel like High Templars normally are the better way to go.
I do think charge is the best answer to Marine tank early on. It's just to absorb damage, force the tanks to shoot their own units. Although I do like this play from Bischu as well, just going for a fast storm and be able to deal with the massive amounts of Marines. One medevac also load up to the top right, but it's a very weak medevac. One feedback can just immediately eliminate 10 supply in a moment's notice. So Ryung has to be very cautious because he does have a lead, and throwing away supply here and there is exactly what lets Bischu back in the game.
There are already High Templars in the top left-hand corner ready to receive anything like that, so I like what Bischu is doing so far. I would love him to be a little bit more aggressive with even taking an expansion, a third base, but still he's at a pretty decent location. You can see the High Templar being warped in the bottom left-hand corner. Both Banshees are maxed out in energy, although I still don't feel like this trade would be good. He wants to kill both of them, not just one of them. Because a High Templar for a Banshee isn't a good trade.
Although, let's see how much drop or damage this drop will do. Ooh, Ryung, he sees, or sorry, Bischu sees it with his observer, but I think he's preoccupied with the Banshees as well. And now these Marines will get in, kill off some of these Stalkers, and Bischu could have easily just eliminated the supply, but now losing a little bit more than he should. And the big thing is that now Ryung has the full scout of his opponent and space advantage. Look at him moving across the middle of the map, able to detract the attention away from the center, and that's going to give time for the tanks to get into position. Imagine if he was storming the Marines, preventing from doing anything. In fact, Bischu pulls almost all of his units to deal with the drop, and a huge push, but he's walking straight into the Templars, and the medevacs are not there to heal. He does split. How well is Ryung going to be able to micro against this? Although Bischu's clumping up almost all of his units. Are there any more storms for the Protoss army? No, he has to warp and everything else. GG. And Ryung takes game at number 1 after a very unorthodox turn of, I guess, sequence of openings. It was crazy, one base versus one base.
That was to be expected, though. Once Ryung actually establishes command center and is able to stabilize quite substantially, he's able to just say, hey, I have an economic advantage. I'm going to yield that into additional units. I will have the supply lead on you, which we saw as soon as things started to stabilize. Ryung just continued that with a little bit of pressure, forced his opponent to play very passive, very inside his base, and was able to get awesome positioning and just roll over his opponent. Well played.
Absolutely. That game was brought to you by GoToMyPC for everything from remote access, file transfers, remote privacy. All this is possible and more. Use the link at the bottom, nsl.tv/p/GoToMyPC for a special offer. We'll be back with game number 2 between Bischu and Ryung. We'll find out what's going to happen, who's going to seize control of the division when we come back.